Hey, hey.
Wow. Hey, what's up, guys?
How's it going?
Doing good. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Stream Team. Guys, we've been doing this for pushing 3.5 years. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
We already got
Yeah.
basically 60 folks in here, and we haven't even really started yet. So this is awesome having everybody in here, and
Good
we appreciate
stuff.
you guys for being here tonight. A lot of familiar names and a few I don't recognize, but we're so glad you're here. So anyway, down here in Alabama, it's busy. It sounds like you guys are busy up there as well. And so why don't we just jump around the horn here and just see what's going on in your neck of the woods? Brian, why don't you start us off, man? I noticed in one of your videos, I guess your last video, one of your most recent videos, you were just like a kid in a candy store, man. You were just so happy. So tell us a little bit about what's going on up there in northeastern Ohio.
Yeah. Well, let me do something here. I'm gonna share a screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope you have some pictures to show us.
I'm gonna share a screen. Look at that.
Yeah, man.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Look at that.
Greg, how many cells are on a typical frame of worker brood? Is that like 3,500 per side or something like that? Or how many cells is it on there typically? Do you know the number?
I think it depends on the frame, the foundation, deep or medium. But I think you're somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple thousand cap cells on a frame.
At least
be up to 3,000. Yeah,
I think on each side, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken, I might be. Yeah, so it's Brian. If your hive's not full, it's about to be.
In that colony, there were 3 frames that were like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, you're going to be opening those boxes and not seeing the top of the frames. That's what I love to see when I open them up and you can't even see the top of the frames. Bees everywhere. You can barely see them. That's what I like to see. And you're almost at that point.
I'd probably get a hold of your supplier, Brian, ask for your money back on something like that.
You know, there were empty cells in there and I was quite upset.
Unbelievable.
So
I hate it when 0.4% aren't full. That just, what a slacker, you know?
On that whole, what'd you say, about 3,000 on the side? And there probably was about 40 that did not have, a larvae or anything in them. And it's just unacceptable, So it's really unacceptable. I need to talk to him. I'm going to see him probably this weekend. And, we're just going to have a sit down and serious discussion.
I'm looking at the number because now I'm
hot honey and donuts.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the number because now I'm curious as to how many there are on there.
Yeah,
that's really actually it's good to know that because folks out there don't realize. Okay, it says a deep length frame with standard foundation contains slightly over 6,900 worker cells. So I was thinking about 3,500 on each side. I mean, I know it varies a little bit with the brand, but that's pretty good average. So you're looking at
edge to edge. You're probably like that on average. I think with a rainbow of brood, of pollen and nectar going above it and all that. I think more in the.
So I would imagine there were some on the edges, like had some pollen and stuff like that. Not many. So there probably is 3,000 on a side there.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So just a package they say averages about 10,000 bees, right?
Gosh, and I had 3 frames that were like that. So probably 18,000 bees are going to be emerging out here.
It's going to look. That's that thing when you crack the lid and you look down at all these fuzzy faces looking up at you. When that frame hatches, that's going to cover 3 to 4 frames. I mean, it just covered.
Well, and there's 3 like that, so that's
To Greg's point, normally there's like some honey. There's a honey ring and some pollen, and it's quite a bit. That one looks like it's wall to wall, man. So you're going to be. So you're going to be able to. You talked about making splits. I think that's a possibility, definitely for sure.
Yeah, and so I installed the packages. That went really well. No hiccups there. I checked them all, and I'm editing the video for that. That video will be out Friday, but the short and sweet of it there is every queen is out, and I found eggs in several of them. So was really impressed. They all look good. my 3 survivor colonies, 2 of them I did not split yet. I probably will be splitting them here. Oh gosh. I mean, I'm probably looking at next Monday or something like that, because Sunday I'm going to try and not touch bees because it's Mother's Day. But one of the colonies I had to split. Like, I had the week prior, I had gone in and smashed down, some practice cups, things like that. And I went in, and it was my largest colony. I found a couple cells, so I left. I'm listening to the advice of the other 2 on here, and like prior years, I would always let the Royal Rumble take place with about 20 cells in there.
Oh my!
It was Royal Rumble. I walking down to those colonies when I would leave them like that, it's almost like you would hear like Fight Club going on. But I crushed down, and I only left. It was 3 or so, 3, maybe 4. But I had to pull a split. I mean, I saw they literally, I checked them on Monday. The cells were probably going to cap themselves on Tuesday because they were extended clear down. They had a little bit, they basically had the flap on the end that was not sealed over yet. So I thought, well, let me find Mama. So I found Mama, and I moved her over to one of my resource colonies. But yeah, it's going to get busy. I mean, it's good though. I mean, it's good. Last year, starting out, things did not go this smooth. Like, even to this point, when I got packages and just and it wasn't even that. It was just everything else. I mean, I had colonies swarming very early. I had queen issues. They weren't making queens. I tried to replace them. They weren't accepting them. They were killing them. So to have the number of colonies that I have right now that are all queen right, finding those newly, released queens where there's eggs, I just was ecstatic, So it really looked good. And the one thing I tell you, so I did, like, I got some new equipment in there. Those infinity frames that I said I was trying, did you guys saw, Greg? They were right across from your booth.
Yeah.
Those plastic, or, well, I don't even know. I mean,
they're heavy duty for sure.
Yeah. I tried a set of them. 6 of the 10 were drawn out in 8 days.
Nice.
So now I had feed on everything. So set aside from the feed, with the rain, we've got a flow and all that stuff. But literally everything, it's exactly like what you titled this. It's a wonderful time to be a beekeeper.
Yeah, man, I drive down, I like my 2 bee yards down south. Slocum and Applin are just killing it. They're so awesome. And it's just like, like a major airport walking through there with the buzzing and the sound. I just love it. My northern bee yards are just kind of a little bit behind for whatever reason. I think when I was trying to kind of humble the mean ones, I humbled them maybe too far, and they're having a hard time. Building up. But Slocum and Applin are doing really well. But I wanted to, I don't know, maybe Brian, you could help old Spencer out here. He had a question for you. Great queen, Brian. Where could I get a few of those royal queens? Maybe both of you guys could address that question there.
Well, I'll let Greg continue with his work that he's doing there. So, Spencer, what you'll have to do is go to naturesimagefarm.com, click on the About Us, and send a message.
Brian is good, man. He's got this thing figured out.
Because all of my queens that I have are basically from Greg's genetic lines. So, yeah, if you want to get any of those, and I'll tell you, even that Pepto queen that was a hair behind, she has frames with slabs of brood like that. So basically all 3 of my colonies that survived last year have slabs of brood.
That's awesome.
So it's just like, wow, yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
So that's a good segue to go into, I guess, southeastern or eastern Ohio, where Greg's at, and tell us what's going on up there, Greg. Maybe address that question as well.
East Central Ohio. So we're just a hair east of Columbus, Ohio, out here near Zanesville, and it's the most wonderful time of the year to be a beekeeper. Just like your thumbnail, it's the time where you can nearly do no wrong. The weather is beautiful. The spring peepers are still hanging on a little bit in the evenings. The blooms they're just nonstop. Right now we've transitioned from some of that very early dandelion flushes that's migrated to the autumn olive. We've had a pretty nice autumn olive bloom for nectar. We've had some rains, some heavy rains, 3 days of rain, and so it looks like the autumn olive is done. Maybe it pops back for a day or two, but now we're going to start going into the blackberry and multiflora rose and things like that. The honeysuckle, of course, is on and things like that. But the main flow stuff, the blackberry, multiflora rose, going into like black locust, and then we'll get into some of the crops there. Is all kind of ahead of us. The bees they have this beautiful, rather than just hitting a bell curve and going straight up, they've just had this beautiful ramp up. Colonies are looking good. Lots of white wax. We're very healthy brood. We've been busy grafting, and he's working on queen rearing, and so it's just it's a beautiful time. Right now, we're kind of focused on getting the ground to dry out some in certain areas, so we can go set some out yards just ahead of some of these heavy nectar blooms. So that's kind of where we're at right now. As far as all the other things going on here, that's really keeping us on our toes too. I had the great honor of speaking at the Miami Valley Beekeepers Association earlier this week, and that was a great group of folks talking about queen rearing the easy way. And so I think I was able to kind of spark some ideas with folks who, if they want to raise 25 or 30 queens a week or less, I kind of walked them through and showed them how to do that without ever even lifting up a grafting tool. So that was a lot of fun. Today, got to go visit with Zanesville high schoolers and talk to them about some life lessons with the honeybees. And I gave that presentation and brought in the observation hive, and that was a lot of fun. It's always great to be able to work with kids, to be that lighthouse, to be that change we want to see, and kind of pass that torch on, kind of plant those seeds. So that was a lot of fun. Did that, and then right now we're just we're in the thick of it. We are getting ready we're gearing up for our very last package run of the year. And so it's just been enormous. God's been good. This community has been awesome in supporting what we're doing here. And every single package run has sold out in advance. And it's just it's a beautiful thing. Right now we're down to maybe, I think we've got about 100 nukes or less left, and that's it. And then that's it. It's just from there, it's just queen rearing and maybe sitting on some honey this year, a significant amount of honey this year. So lot of things going on here kind of all at once. And we're just trying to keep things moving forward. So Bruce, how about you? What's going on down in Dothan, Alabama?
Man, we've had a lot going on for a while now, but just for those who are asking questions, I do have some stars, so hang tight with us and we'll try and get to them. But especially if you want us to be able to see it better, since the comments move quickly sometimes, just put them in all caps. We're trying to catch them as they go through, and if we happen to miss you, don't get mad at us. We're just trying to do the best we can. But we got a few marks, so we'll get to those questions after a while. Down here in Dothan, we had everything seemed like it was late. We had a really maybe our coldest winter in a while. At least we had, we actually had a snowstorm, which we don't have those down here. And so that was back in January, but I made some splits. Greg, you came down here, I think the 1st of March we went through, or 1st of February, we went through a bunch of my colonies down here, and you can see how they were doing then, just a couple of weeks after that snowstorm. And they've grown. I've used up well over half of the boxes you brought down here. I ordered 70 deeps of the Endura Hive Propola Endura Hive boxes, beautiful, beautiful boxes. And then I ordered 700 frames to go in those boxes. And I've used, I think I've probably got, I don't know, like, it's not very many left. So I've gone through most of those. I've probably got maybe 15, 20 left, I would guess, that are not out there in the bee yards now. So I've replaced some old rotting ones, and then I've just added some to my operation out there. But they've grown. The bees have grown. They've done well. I made splits in February, believe it or not, with some queens out of Hawaii, and they've grown up. We've been making honey now since probably, I would guess, mid-March. It really kicked into gear early part of April. And I've got right now sitting on hives. I've gone through and counted the last few days. I have, I think, around 65 boxes of capped honey ready to harvest, or mature honey ready to harvest. And so we were going to harvest this coming weekend, but it's supposed to rain. It just didn't work out for us. So we're going to probably try to pull that spring honey next weekend. And then that's the 17th and 18th. And then, of course, we'll try and slap those boxes back on. Tallow should just kind of be starting about then. And that's our biggest crop typically. The tassels, the little, they send out little shoots. They kind of go vertical. I saw some pictures of mesquite. I think it's a similar looking bloom to mesquite, if I'm not mistaken. It kind of just goes out and then hangs down, probably 3 to 4 or 5 inches long. These little shoots that come out in little blooms are not really, they're not very impressive. Like, you wouldn't even notice them if you didn't know what they were hardly. It's kind of a greenish yellow color, but man, the bees just love it. They're kind of, they pack honey, I think, kind of like the linden trees / basswood trees do. They just almost drip nectar. And anyway, they're tallow, right now, I think we're about maybe 5 to 7 days away on the early part of the tallow, but tallow kind of comes in stages. Like, it doesn't all bloom at once. You'll have some that's blooming, and as those blooms start to dry off, another tree will just be getting started. So it's a pretty long flow. I think it goes for, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks typically.
Wow.
And the bees just love it. So I want to get the honey off, the spring honey off, put the supers back on, and then hopefully they'll fill everything up again for a large harvest. We usually do that around the end of June, maybe 23rd, I don't know, towards the end of June is when we usually do that. And anytime into June, early July, you can pull that. But you want to get it off as soon as you can, because if not, then you start having problems with hive beetles and pests that get in there. As the hives begin to brood back, they can get honey bound, or they can begin to brood back because that tallow flow stops, early to mid-June. You can be in trouble. So you got to get it off as soon as you can when that happens. I saw Toby in here. Toby Reeder lives not far from me, and he was a little concerned about the tallow. But I'll tell you, Toby, just be patient, because I think it's coming. Especially we have rain. We haven't had rain like in a month significant. We had some a couple of days ago, and now we've got 2 or 3 days of some nice steady rain, I think, off and on the next couple of days. So I think that's hopefully going to help kick that tallow into gear, and I think we're going to hopefully have a good crop. But right now we're actually between flows a little bit. The bees have been so nice and friendly, and they're still not real bad, but I, when I go into these colonies, if I have burrcomb on the top, I just kind of scrape it off and put it on the box next door. And the reason I do that, a couple of reasons: to let the bees clean it up if they need to, and if they don't, then the rain will wash it or whatever, and I get that beautiful wax on my next visit out there. Just leave it on the top of the colonies next door. And it was I think it was Saturday I went out there and did that. And the bees, a couple of weeks before I'd done that, and they hadn't touched it in a week. They just left it alone because there was such a good flow going. But boy, Saturday they jumped on it, and they were cleaning that up. So we are between flows a little bit right now. But another thing I've done is I put some simple comb on the colonies. Put it on there a week ago yesterday, the first part of that. And yesterday they hadn't touched it, which just indicates to me too that there's no flow going on. There's really not much happening. But I have, I think, 26 frames worth of simple comb in my colonies. And so we'll see what happens. Mick and Madison sent me some little dividers, followers, to kind of try with that and see how it works. I'm not sure if I'm going to like them or if I'm going to prefer it with just the capped honey next to them, but we'll see what happens. Trying a little different technique on that. I'm trying to run them right up the middle. So stay posted, stay in tune to my channel, because I've got a video I'm working on right now, editing the first part of that process of putting them on. And then I'll follow up at the end and kind of show you how they worked out that way, and give my opinion on the followers and how it works using my technique. I will tell you the simple comb, though, is much better now. For those who tried it before, I would recommend you try it again. You can go into my chat. You can go to simplecomb.com. It's spelled SIMPLE KOMB.com, and you can put Bruce 10 for a 10% discount as well. I think, Greg, you sell it too, don't you? You sell the Simple Comb as well. So, but it worked out kind of okay for me last year, but they redid the molds, and so now they fit into the frames very easily. They pop, snap right in, and it's just so much easier to use it now than it was last year. Last year I had a hard time getting it in the frames, but this year it just pops right in, much easier. So but that's kind of what's going on down here. I've just had I just love going to my bee yards, especially that Appleton is such a beautiful location with the water in the background, and just hanging out there kind of in the evening time. It's just so pretty. I was down there last night, kind of wrap things up down there, and I just kind of want to hang out there because you hear the bees buzzing, and just it's a beautiful, with the sunset in the background. It's just a beautiful environment. It's just nothing quite like it. And the thumbnail tonight is a picture my daughter took actually last Friday evening. We were out there at that bee yard, and she got a beautiful picture of a bee. You can see all the hairs on the bee and everything with the sun in the background. And she did a photo shoot down there at Appleton Farm location with me. So she took some pictures. We did some branding type stuff. She's a professional photographer, and she's kind of moved to this area trying to get some things rolling here. So, but it's busy. I've got everything set up though. I've moved all the capped honey up to the top of the hives, and so we should be able to go pull whatever boxes are marked at the top of the hives and just go with it. We won't have to dig through anything. Next weekend we can hopefully pull it fast and slap those things right back on there right in time to pick up the majority of the tallow flow. So that's kind of where we're at down here. I've also had some crazy swarm issues. I had on my channel, these aren't my typical videos. They're more like vlog type videos where I had a couple of swarms I've talked about them before where they moved into my stacks of honey supers. I had my stacks of honey supers 16 high with a divider in the middle, and had two swarms move into those dang honey supers in the barn. Like they had to fly inside the barn probably 20, 25 feet. You know, they usually, so and we left them in there, and Lisa helped me a couple of weeks ago. We got the bees out. We didn't get them out. We just basically condensed all the bees down into a couple of the boxes they were in, just let them sit in there, let the bottom board and the lid, and just kind of establish their colonies there. And finally I got them out of there this past Saturday night. And they were heavy. The one that's a double medium was so heavy, and it was at dark, and the bees were crawling all over the hive because there's got a lot of bees in there, and so that was fun. Trying to deal with that was not fun. But just dropped a video early this morning where I kind of go through the larger of the two, and man, they are doing really good. I added a honey super on there, so beautiful queen, beautiful brood pattern. And I thought the attitude was going to be bad, but it wasn't. They were a little bit flighty, not super desirable, but they weren't. I thought they were going to be meaner than they were. They actually weren't too bad. And the smaller one actually is doing pretty good too, but the brood pattern is not great. So
you should have done a giveaway and been like, you could win a chance to move one of my colonies.
That's great.
Yeah, that would have been fun. But anyway, there's always something going on. I think about it all the time, what I can do next. And I'm so excited. I'm always, sometimes I'm a little tired. And with these stream team videos, I'm like, oh man, I'm so tired. But once I get on here, I always enjoy it. And I think you guys probably feel the same way. And it's a lot of fun. But we're right in it. And I titled this video, "This the most wonderful time of the year," because it really is right now. We've been kind of in it now for a couple of months, but a lot of you guys up north are just hitting that stride with it. And it's just, I think in most parts of the country, the people are getting in their bees now and begin to really start making splits and do some fun things with them and really assess and grow their operations. And so it really is right now. For some of us, we're in the middle of it. Some of us are getting started, but I think almost everyone is in their bees, unless you're in a super high altitude or super, super far north. I think most people are in their bees now and
up here
beginning to enjoy them a little bit.
We had that kind of stationary low pressure that was hovering over Ohio for like a week or so, and in northeast Ohio, and he's probably close to it. He's probably similar. In the first 6 days of May, we had our entire month of May, the average precipitation in the first 6 days.
Wow.
So now, like the next, I think it's like 7 or 8 days, it's just no rain. Like 5 of those days it's sunny or minimal clouds. The bees are just going to they're just going to go nuts, literally go nuts. Everything is starting to bloom. I mean, it literally is a good time right now.
So much fun. What do you guys think about that as far as, it rained quite a bit, so obviously the ground was saturated, can really help these flowers bloom, and they're just going to hopefully just overflow with nectar. That's the goal. How long do you think it is before the environment or the trees start to feel the impact if it gets dry? Do you think it's a week or 2 or a month? How long do you think it is before it affects the nectar flow if you've had a good rain like that?
My gosh.
What do you think, Greg? I know.
I think it depends on the plant,
That's true. Yeah.
Of course, we're primarily talking about perennials, so that being said, they're a little bit more deeply rooted. Clovers, I think they're a little bit more sturdy and rugged through some of those droughts. They can kind of recharge. They can hold on to some of that soil or moisture in the soil a little bit longer. But I think by and large, a lot of plants, they need a correct amount of moisture. I would think 15 to 30 days in advance of blooming. I think that really cripples a lot of crops to produce an abundant flow. I know that's what we had seen in the fall time. The goldenrod just got murdered with drought, and so what it did produce just wasn't worth the hill of beans. And all the pollinators treated it accordingly, meaning they disregard it by and large. Out here, I think some things that we see pop quick after those rains. I think in my mind, when we kind of when I look at these plants, it seems as though, yes, they have reserves, but it's also that they have an intelligence or awareness to them that when the reserves are right, even right after a rain and it warms up, they just pop. So they're not just popping and blooming based on the reserves. The reserves are there for like their overall framework and stability, but those little influxes of rain and warmth, they use that for that here and now, and boom, that can help them, I think, to pop or initiate that blooming process. Some of those plants are a lot different though. Honeysuckle, autumn olive, how those bloom and pop are a little different than dandelion and clover. Those dandelions seem to make adjustments based on the weather fairly quickly, it seems, where clovers there's a little bit more going on to build up to that. Same thing with the autumn olives. And then some of them are a little bit more fragile to downpour rain based on whether the blooms are bell-shaped and facing down or if they're kind of just up. So I think it all depends, Bruce, and I don't know enough about each and every one of them. It just seems as though clover is a great buffer, it seems, until it gets too dry. And then when it gets too dry, it just almost nearly shuts down and takes a very long time to pop, if it ever does. I know the clover this past year, it was too dry, and it couldn't do anything. So
Brian, you got any thoughts on that with your experience?
I mean, Greg knows more about it than what I do, but I know like last year, everything pretty much just got destroyed. It was annihilated. Now, this year, if we continue like we're going, now I don't want like 8 days of straight rain. It was pretty bad. I mean, we had like very heavy downpours. Monday, when I got into my colonies, literally like the landscaping fabric that I had down, that gray thick landscaping fabric, I was literally standing in some of the spots. There was like an inch of water that I was standing, and it was where it was just pooled in
saturated.
The yard.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy. Now, like that, no, that's not good. But if we get like these stretches of decent weather, and then we get those nice rainstorms, we're going to have a fantastic spring up here.
Yeah, down here it was interesting because we had just like the perfect amount of moisture, rain. Everything was like perfect. Every few days it would rain like a half inch. It was just like just right. It was like it would be sunny for a few days and it would rain, just almost like it was teed up perfectly for farmers and beekeepers, just everyone.
Yeah.
And then about probably the first week or so of April, it just shut off. We didn't have rain probably for a month, 3 to 4 weeks at least. And everything was turning dry. The grass was turning, it was just getting all crackly and dry, and everything was looking dry. But I'll be darned if during that time frame is not when the bees just went off on the honey, putting honey in the hives. They just went crazy. So, we have privet, we have blackberry, we have some clover around, just some different like tulip poplar. It's just kind of finishing up now. I think most of those spring flowers are finishing up. There's probably some other things as well around these parts, but it just went crazy. The privet was blooming, but it wasn't like an incredible, like it wasn't like just privet everywhere this year. It was some of the bushes, it's like a hedge. Farmers hate it. Everybody hates it except beekeepers, but it's like when it's really blooming and really productive, it's it smells like it everywhere. You can smell it in the air everywhere you go. And, but this year it was there, but it wasn't the best flow ever, but there was everything. I guess everything was blooming because I think my bees, I think they did about as good as they ever have in the spring, but they just they packed it in during what seemed to be the driest point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been like, man, we got to get some rain for the tallow, tallow or trees. And I know, Greg, to your point, like some things are bushes, some things are just weeds or plants. Of course, the trees have the deeper roots. And so I guess that obviously plays a role, but I've been worried that it was going to be too dry. There wouldn't be a tallow flow. Fortunately, in a lot of my area where my bees are, the tallow trees are around water, like it's swampy or ponds and areas like that. And so they're going to be getting moisture from that. But it's just an interesting thing to think about how Mother Nature works, Greg. It's kind of the principle of reserves, like the plants just they just figure it out. It's almost in a sense better for it to be maybe a little bit dry as long as it's not a massive drought than it is if it rains every day and just kind of it's raining every single day. The bees can't work. Then I think that would definitely limit your honey supplies. So that's kind of interesting to think about. I've been noticing a lot of folks in here that I haven't really seen before in the chat, or I haven't, several people. So we really appreciate you guys being here. A lot of our people have been here from day one, and there's a lot of folks just kind of coming in, maybe that are newer to the chat. We appreciate you being here, and hopefully, you check out all of our channels. We'd love for you to check out our channels. If you like what you see, maybe hit that thumbs up on the channel and subscribe to the channels, and maybe hopefully we can each give our own perspective and help you kind of figure some things out a little bit. For those who may not be familiar, Brian is the hobby guy. What do you call yourself? Small scale beekeeper, sideliner wannabe, closet sideliner. Brian he's serious about this thing, but
Small scale beekeeper.
But he is more the guy that's doing the hobby thing. Of course, Greg is a commercial beekeeper, but Greg actually really caters to the hobbyist beekeepers as well. He's out there helping all of us. And then I'm kind of the sideliner guy out here, just trying to basically work 2 jobs, work a full-time job that pays for my family, and then the beekeeping thing that kind of feeds itself, and I make a little bit with it. So I'm doing it as a business on the side, a pretty significant business. I wish I could just double and triple my operation and just really go all in, and I just am not quite there yet. I don't know physically if I could do that, but I'm pretty comfortably at about 100 to 150 hives is kind of where I stay. And so, but just for those who may not be familiar of the difference between the three of us, that's kind of, and then of course we're all in different regions. I'm down here in Alabama, Southeast Alabama, just not far from the Georgia and Florida line. Brian's up in bitter cold, up in Northeast Ohio, and Greg, you're kind of there in Eastern Central Ohio. So, we do have a few questions. Once again, guys, if you'd like us to maybe address some questions or comments, put it in all caps. It's easier for us to catch it that way. Are you guys ready to kind of do a little bit of rapid fire here on some questions and see what we have?
Yeah. Let it rip.
Let's see here. We'll start off. First of all, Brian, I really appreciate the super chat. These super chats, they really are helpful to the channel. It helps kind of make it all worthwhile. I do have obviously YouTube set up. It's monetized, and so it's just really a shot in the arm all the time and effort. And I do put a lot of time into it, as do both of these guys. And just it really helps. These super chats really help out. So thanks a lot, Brian, for that. And Greg, same for you, man. Thanks for sending that super chat. That means a lot. I appreciate it. And so let's go up here and see if we can find some comments or questions of folks. Let's try this one out.
Wow.
62 Latour or Latour. Hello, all nectar flows are storing here in Central PA. One hive gained about 4 pounds today. So I guess the reason I started this, my question is, I guess he has a scale where he can tell how much it weighs. That would be kind of cool to be able to
maybe
go out there, just have it sitting on a scale and just measure the weight. I know there is a program. I can't think of what it's called, but
Broodminder
has that.
The local bee club here, they're just bringing a study they were in the past where they actually whatever the study was sent them a scale, and they had hives sitting on a scale, and I think they were just sitting on there all the time, and they would just weigh the hives, according to whatever the study was required, to see what the weights were throughout the year. But that's pretty cool to be able to go out and kind of keep track if you're kind of a bee nerd, so to speak, and just kind of keep track of exactly what's going on. That's a lot of important data too. It really helps what the flow's doing. So, Brian, that's the type of thing you would do, man.
Oh yeah, that's it.
He said broodminder scales.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Brian, I'm surprised you don't have one of those under several of your colonies. Maybe you will someday, right? That's the type of thing you would do.
No, trust me. I looked into it, but I'm the type of person that I would want them on every hive.
Colony. Yep.
And
that would get pricey.
I just don't want to spend. It would probably be $1,500 to $2,000 for me to do everything. And I'm just like, for me to sit and geek out over graphs, I'm like, I could buy other equipment.
All right. I think that's interesting that you're doing that, and I think it can give you some important data too. If that's, I just look, and if they're putting honey in, I know that each box is going to be a minimum of about 30 pounds when it's full. I'll tell you what though, I have some supers right now that have 8 frame spacers in them, and they have 8 frames in them, and they are so heavy. They are way heavier than some of my 10 frame boxes full of honey right now. It's crazy. And I don't know I think some of the boxes I have that I bought from another guy, from David Brown over in the Bay Minette area here in Alabama, over towards Mobile. But those boxes were made. I think it was his uncle that had that bee business, and he was selling some of those boxes, and some of them are just made out of heavier wood. But man, a couple of those things are just so heavy. I had a beekeeper that's kind of a new beekeeper out there. She was out there with me Saturday evening, and I said, try to pick that box up, and she almost could. I don't know if she could even do it. It was so heavy, but that thing probably weighed 40 plus pounds. And but anyway, I usually figure a little more than a 5-gallon bucket from 2 10-frame medium supers. So that's kind of how I judge it. When I look at it, if I see them packed out, I'm like, well, that's about 30, 35 pounds of honey right there. And so but there's no way I could weigh all my boxes, but I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We have Lincoln Crafts and Experiments ask if we recommend the Flow Hive. And
yes or no, Bruce?
Me personally, I say do whatever you want to do. I have friends that have them. I know people that have them that love them, and but most people obviously don't use them for a couple. They're cost prohibitive if you got the money to pay for them. They're kind of a cool thing to have, like if you're like a hobby beekeeper, kind of in your backyard. But the thing I think that so many people get in trouble with is that they just don't. They think they can put bees in them and not take care of the bees. They think, hey, I'll put bees in them, and I'll open the tap up, I'll collect honey. It's the best of both worlds. I think that's the danger with the Flow Hive. I will say too that Flow Hives are a little tricky to get the bees to go up and work the Flow Super. I think that you just got to figure that out. You got to play with it, experiment, and because they typically come, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, and Greg, I think you have one too. Don't they typically come with one 8-frame box and then one Flow box? Isn't that usually what the hive consists of?
It varies.
So down here, if you only have one 8-frame box and one Flow Super, that's going to be not enough space at all for a strong colony. And they'll just, I guess you can harvest honey like every week if you want to that way, if once they finally fill it out. But Brian, I know I don't have any personally, but I have dealt with them a little bit, helped some people out, or I have been in them. I've seen what they're like. And I don't have anything at all against them. I just think that you have to be willing to experiment, to take care of your bees, and to just be patient with them, because it does take a little bit of coaxing for some bees to get up in that flow box. Brian, what do you think?
So the Flow Hive is what got me into beekeeping. My mom wanted one. She got one Christmas of 2016. I will say this. Do your research, because if you look at, like, the original marketing on a flow hive was dump bees in it, and you can go out and turn a key and out comes this golden liquid right out of a spout. And it really, like, it kind of, the original marketing was leaning towards the direction of just really, you don't have to put in any work. So there were a lot of people caught off guard with it just because they're thinking, oh, I can get these bees, throw them in it, and every couple months I'm going to walk out, or if you're in a decent flow, you know, you're going to walk out every, like you said, every week, and you're going to have honey. You still have to be, I think, in order to get flow hives to work properly, you have to be a fantastic beekeeper. You cannot just let them go. You have to manage them. And also, if you look at every single flow hive video, their pictures, their configuration is single brood.
That's right.
Now,
eight frame single brood.
Yep. And you can't do that. Like, there's certain areas where, you know, if you do 8 frame single brood, you're going to be spitting out swarms like crazy. I tried it several times, and now, like, when I very first got it, in their literature, it did not say to pre-wax the frames. It did not say anything. I followed their literature. Well, the very first year I tried it, my flow super became an ant colony. The bees did not touch it, and ants overtook it. I had to take it all apart and literally hose it out. Then I pre-waxed it, and I got them to use it a little bit. I tried it a third time. They put maybe 6 pounds of honey in it when every other super in my apiary was getting jam-packed out with nectar. I removed the flow super, put a regular super on, and it was filled within a week. So the flow was
tricky. It's tricky.
It's tricky. Now, I've taken it to Greg's place because I figured, you know, let him use it for the learning yard. That way he can show, you know, because there's always people that ask. I mean, flow hive, it's not, and trust me, I'm not bashing it because it's what got me into beekeeping, but you have to put your time in to get it to work. It's not just as simple as throw bees in it. You have to be a good beekeeper. Now, they have some setups that are 10 frame, but even with a 10 frame, just a single 10 frame deep, you know, like, say I've got my colonies that have those 3 full slabs, 3 frames, both sides, full slabs of bees, plus other frames. Say you have that and you're not an experienced beekeeper to know that you have to go back out there in a couple days and check it, and you have that flow super on, you have a single deep, the flow super, they're going to swarm. You're going to walk out there every other week, and you're going to find cells, and it's going to swarm, you know, they'll swarm themselves to death.
Yeah.
So it's not just a simple thing.
Now, Greg, you've actually utilized that hive that Brian gave you and had some success with it, haven't you?
Yeah, this is going to get a little tricky because if there's 2 groups of folks that we can apparently trigger at the drop of a hat, one of them being the treatment-free crowd, the second being the flow hive crowd, I'm in fear of my social media presence by talking about the flow hive. So I think it'd be in my best interest if I just
start talking like this, totally disguise my voice, and we'll turn the camera off too. That way, if any bozo knucklehead YouTuber decides to rip off our videos and use them in the future, then they can't use my likeliness without my permission. Does that make sense?
It does, Greg.
Yes.
Bruce has the juice.
This is the best beekeeping chat ever. All other beekeeping chats are just inferior. Weak beekeeping chats.
Weak.
The best.
No, in all seriousness, I tell you what, I love the flow hive because it brings folks who probably would never become beekeepers. It brings them to beekeeping. And sure, it's a numbers game, but I wonder if it's maybe 50% of the initial Flow Hive target audience actually becomes beekeepers, because they catch the buzz. You know, they just fall in love, and they want to take it to the next level. Flow Hive's marketing is second to none. It got a lot of people thinking it was a set it and forget it, throw some bees in a box, turn the valve, and then just have all that delicious honey. That's not the case at all. I can tell you we have accidentally had tremendous success with the Flow Hive for several years in a row. And I'm glad we actually talked about this, because I kind of forgot. We've kind of reset the learning yard a little bit, actually a lot of it. And reminds me that Brian, on Saturday, for our last package pickup, we have a package demo, install demo at 1 o'clock. We should install that into a hive in which we can attempt to utilize the Flow Hive.
The one on the far left.
It would be on it would be, if you're looking at the learning, it would be on the far right. So it would just kind of stage them in order that we've installed. And I think, and here's what we've actually done that has ended up being beautiful. What we're going to do is we're going to install a package in an 8-frame medium Propola and DuraHive wax tip box. Okay. And once they are jammed out of this medium box, then we're going to add an 8-frame deep Propola box on top of that. And when that's jammed, what we're going to do is actually flip flop them, put the medium super on top of that deep brood box, and then put the excluder on, and then put that flow super. That is what we've done every single year. And every single year we've harvested honey out of that Flow Hive. So I think you've got to get them, get the right configuration, and then it can work beautifully. I would not necessarily lean on that for honey production. However, we've said it every single year. We'll say it again. We, one of the happy little accidents with the Flow Hive, Brian has a photo of himself next to this beautiful kaleidoscope of honey color. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And that's thanks to the Flow Hive, because the bees are socking it away frame by frame. And when you harvest from each frame and you move through that, what you end up with is this beautiful rainbow effect of different colors of honey, and the flavor profiles are also different. So I think from an educational standpoint, from just an interesting, this is neat thing, you know, I would actually encourage folks to have a Flow Hive super, maybe not the whole kit. You know, I'm not real happy at all with the Flow Hive finish on those boxes, but I do like it for the learning opportunity of those frames. And here's a little secret. Let me put my
voice disguise back on. But if you really want to win a honey competition, use a Flow Hive. Reason being, there is no air entangled in the honey. It is very, very clear, very pure, undisturbed, with no kind of extraction disturbance. So if you want blue ribbon honey, then think about the Flow Hive. And this also comes from the man, the myth, the legend, Fred Dunn.
Yep, that's true. Fred has said on a number of occasions that at top level honey competitions, those that win, it's from a Flow Hive.
Yeah, lots of times. I think that's true. Is it true of Black Jar too? I think a lot of the time. I think it's just a, you know,
well,
the reasoning, I don't know. Like you're not smoking them. You're not putting anything. You know, it's just a. It is
There's
just
no particulates in it. Yep.
Now, one thing to think about too. Someone mentioned earlier. What about the water content in that honey? And how do you check it? And I think Russell mentioned that. Koopman, I believe it was him. And I think I don't know if you have to just wait for that outside frame with the window right there. Whoops, my phone fell over.
Good catch, Bruce.
The outside frame to be capped, or how do you know when to harvest it? I guess you can theoretically pull the frames out. I know they're kind of tough to get out of there, but I'm not sure how you can tell.
That's a great question. Brian, do you have that video? Do you have that learning yard video where we did that? Maybe I've got some unpublished learning yard videos. Were you there when we tested that?
No. Well, I was there. I was looking for the pictures and I can't find them, but was that 2 years ago? Like, I don't know when it was. So that's what I was trying to do.
I've got that photo. So here's a cool little tidbit.
It is a great concept. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't even say a concept because it does work. You know, it's a slick, you know, I mean, I can just say the Flow Hive, the creators of it, they probably are responsible for bringing
millions,
X number of new beekeepers to the industry. And, you know, even if, say, after 3 years, they had folks drop out of the hobby because beekeeping was not for them, there are still those that stuck to it. I mean, like me, you know, here I am 9 years later, and, you know, I don't have the Flow Super. I don't use it in my apiary, but the Flow Super is being utilized in a learning yard where just think of the number of people every year that are getting exposed to it.
Yep. So and they can see it in action and learn what it takes for it to make it work.
Yep.
And probably
the last 2 years, I mean, Greg makes it. He makes a point to save that darn thing,
yeah,
so that I can witness
the success
flow extraction.
That's cool though.
So, yeah.
Let's try another question here. We got. Well, it's a comment from DC. Says the smell of the hives is great right now. That is true down here as well. Now we're a little bit between flows right now, but a couple of weeks ago, you walk out there and it just had that beautiful smell of that honey coming in. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm. Greg, did you notice now I think it's probably in this video, when I opened up one of my survivor colonies and I caught that initial, and this is the first time that this early in the year that I've caught that much of a smell from the nectar in the spring. Usually in the fall, you know, you get the dirty socks, like everybody says. But I noticed, like, when I cracked one of my larger colonies and just lifted up that lid, I just smelled it. And I said, I'm like, man, we're in a nectar flow. I knew right away.
There it is. There's the picture.
Oh, yeah.
Oops.
Oh. You click it. Yeah, look at that.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah. And if you look at the jars, all of that honey came out of the same exact super, but where there's the different colors, it's the different floral sources that the bees were foraging on at different times. So that right there,
that's actually, and remember, that's almost nearly lined up the orientation they were in the super. Yeah. So in the center of the super was the lighter honey, then it got a little bit darker, and then it got to the darker fall stuff on the outside edge there.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good memory.
We got a few more questions here. This is a question that Greg, I don't know this next question. I'm not sure if you'll be able to. I'm not sure if you'll be able to. We might have to do a little Reader's Digest version of an answer and then come back to it on a future chat. And Lee, if we don't talk much about this tonight, this Lee Fellows, ask it again in the future. Here we go. Ready, Greg? Here we go.
Oh my gosh. Mr. Lee Fellows.
How do you raise queens without grafting?
Oh.
So that is a fantastic question. Boy, I wish there's no way we can get to that tonight because it is very simple, but there needs to be the correct context surrounding that. In so much, that's exactly what my entire topic of discussion was at a bee club meeting. They ran a little bit tight on time before I jumped on there, and so Even in 1 hour, we couldn't cover all the bases on that. I do have a beautiful presentation that I travel around to bee clubs and such that is specifically on this topic. So Lee, maybe we can find a way to publish that to YouTube at some point. But it's not as hard as you think, and it's letting the bees do all the work. Let's maybe circle back on that one later, because there's no way to do that one in even 3 minutes.
Yeah, be sure and ask that again. And we could even do a video on, maybe it'd be about time to actually maybe do a stream team video on focusing on queens, Greg. You
right,
think
that would be a good one.
In the next, maybe you'll be next week, or I think you're next in line, so maybe we could work towards that very soon, because it's time to, I think, in most of the country to start talking about that. We're gonna kind of do some rapid fire answers here, guys. Let's go to speaking of ants. What are some good ways to stop ants? I noticed a trail going up the leg of my hive stand, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get them out without messing with the bees. Any ant solutions that you guys might have?
Where I had those buggers, like if I had them getting into, if you have an inner cover and they're making little nests in the inner cover, different things like that, cinnamon. Go to Dollar General, buy the cheapest cinnamon that you could possibly find, and just sprinkle cinnamon in those areas. You won't have another bee or another ant.
Yeah, another ant.
Yeah. They don't, the cinnamon does not bother the bees at all. And you will not have another ant in there. So we get them little, what are they, like the little sugar ants? Them little teeny,
those are the bad ones. Those are the dangerous
things.
ones.
Yeah. And I had some on a bucket the other day, and cinnamon. I won't see him there next week.
I will tell you guys something. And for those who live in the South who have experienced fire ants, this is the most strange thing if you're not familiar with this. Greg has experienced them for the first time. But Greg will agree with me. Down here, fire ants, you would think that they would wreak havoc on beehives, but I've had fire ant hills built halfway at my beehives, and I think they defend the beehives against other pests. They work in a symbiotic relationship. There's no problems at all, and Greg saw that when he was down here. I had a pallet that had ants growing right at the back of that colony, and Greg actually got to feel what those fire ants, they're called fire ants for a reason. He kind of got into them a little bit, but they don't mess with the bees at all. And not that you necessarily, people hate fire ants and people just about to kill fire ants, and then what I've heard from some local kind of commercial guys here in Alabama is that fire ants and sugar ants are absolutely deadly to beehives and colonies of bees. They'll take them out pretty quickly. If they get in your bee yard, you're in trouble. But I've also heard that fire ants and sugar ants are rivals. They hate each other. They're enemies. And so if you are concerned about sugar ants and you have fire ants, you probably don't have a whole lot to worry about. But I know up north in different places they don't have those. I'm not encouraging you to go get fire ants and put them in your bee yard, because fire ants are really a pest. But that's an interesting little bit of trivia, and I've experienced it. Fire ants all in my bee yards, right up my beehives. They build those things and never have taken out a beehive with those fire ants. They kind of live together and they do well.
They have, like I've seen people too. If you're thinking that cinnamon and this and that isn't for you, I've seen people like, and I only know about it because I 3D print stuff, but I've seen like those moats, where people put oil and stuff in it. So there's ways that you can do it, but you gotta figure too, if you do that, you have to make sure that every weed and everything is trimmed around your colonies, because if there's any grass or anything extending up to the stand or wherever it's at, those ants are going to find a way. So I've never messed with anything other than I just sprinkle. I literally carry in my bag, where I have all my hive tools and my marking pens and that, I have a Dollar General container of cinnamon.
Let me say to, let's see. So we've addressed Lee's question. Jed asked a question about wax moss. Jed, we'll need to address that probably in a future video, or you can reach out to me individually about that. He just wondered how you keep wax moss out of your equipment. I use basically the just the Walmart version of Paramoth. in the winter time, but this time of year it's hard to do. Keep them out if they're like a swarm trap sitting out or something. You may just lose some that way. But yeah, they can be a pesky thing. But you can reach out to me, Jed, and we'll talk about that. Lincoln, crafts and experiments. Later in the chat here, he says he's a new beekeeper, so he's asking a lot of questions. So rapid fire this will be another thing we could talk about beekeeping equipment in a future video. Yeah. Lincoln, don't forget this question if you have questions in the future, but we'll address it briefly. I guess, Greg, I'll talk a little bit about maybe the different types of boxes real quick. And Greg, you could talk about different ways of preserving them. Brian, you can chime in just real briefly here. But Lincoln, you've got nuke boxes, stands for nuclear hives. Usually they can be 4-frame, 5-frame, 6-frame, whatever you want. The most common is 5-frame deep nuke boxes. And you put 5 frames in there. You've got 8-frame equipment, deep and medium. You have 10-frame equipment, deep and medium are the standard sizes that you run into. And so those are kind of the different types of boxes. Real quickly, I'll just put this next comment up from Russell. Russell says that to Lincoln, you should look into some books on bees, Beekeeping for Dummies, etc. It has a bad name, but it's good. And so that is important in Lincoln. It sounds like you're in the step right now of just trying to kind of do some research and figure this thing out. And that's where everybody starts. As far as the quality of boxes, you know, you can get everywhere from just making your own equipment and trying to paint it to the really nice equipment. And Greg, maybe briefly talk to that fact, because Lincoln, you're the pro in this thing here.
You can. So before Greg starts, I'll just say this, because I know Greg is limited on time. You can go cheap. Okay. And you can, and I had somebody literally message me today on Facebook, and they asked about different boxes because they're just starting out with beekeeping. And he sent me a couple links to some things. And I said, well, yeah, those work, but you have to understand every 2 or so years, you're going to have to do some work with those boxes. If you buy boxes that are painted, every year you're going to have to paint them. It's not going to protect them against the elements. So after some time, you figure your boxes are going to rot, and then you're just going to have to replace them. So you can buy like the Chevette every couple years and get the Chevette every couple years. Or I sent over a link and I said, if you want boxes that you never are going to have to mess with for probably 2 decades, spend a little bit more money now, because it takes the entire stress and worry about you having to manage equipment out of the equation, where then you just enjoy beekeeping.
That's right.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
No, I mean, you guys know me. I can spend way too much time talking about this, but you just, perfectly laid it out. You've heard the saying, buy cheap, buy thrice. You buy that cheap thing the first time, you've got that money invested in that. When that fails, now you have to then buy something else again. And if you would have just bought the higher quality thing the first time, you end up not only saving yourself an enormous amount of money, but also time. What a lot of folks don't consider is they look for cheap. They look for the same type of equipment you can find all the way across the country. People reselling the same type of equipment over and over and over again, looking for the cheapest price, cheapest finger joint box, slap it together, right, and put the cheapest coat of paint on there, and it will hold bees the first year. And then very quickly you will start to see what happens when weather reacts, but also bees react inside of those boxes. Those boxes are taking on moisture, not just from the outside from rain, but from the inside through respiration with those bees, creating an enormous amount of humidity. What eventually happens is boxes and wood expand and they contract. The first place to fail is those inside front frame rest corners. They start to splay outward. Water gets in, and it doesn't take long before they start to rot and decompose. You literally would have to paint bee boxes exteriorly every 2 years to really keep them in good working condition, but you're still doing nothing for the inside like that. With what we do with EnduraHive wax equipment, no paint, no rot, no hassle. We're talking decades of use, never painting a box again, never reworking those boxes. Those boxes that you paint, that you've got your bees in, that you now have to repaint, how do you get those boxes out of use? Well, you have to put new boxes in the bee yard to put the bees in to pull those old junk boxes out to rework and to repaint. So now you got to have 2 boxes. It starts to add up very, very quickly. Makes no sense for time, makes no sense for your budget. It at first, and I get it. As a father of 7 kids, we're a family of 9 here. I know what it means to try to rub 2 pennies together to get a nickel. I get that. And a lot of folks look for what is the cheapest way to get into this thing that I want to do. And I get that. That's why cheap bee boxes are sold. That's why cheap Chinese extractors are sold. It's to get somebody down the road into the thing. But you'll quickly find if you buy cheap, you'll buy twice or thrice, especially when you factor in the long-term wear, tear, and use of those products. So with wax dipping, you're protecting those boxes inside and out for decades, expelling the moisture out, and then impregnating that wood fiber with a high-quality wax. And it's going to help protect that box for a very long time. Just know that not all wax dipping is created equal. And so I'd encourage you to jump over to our YouTube channel, naturesimagefarm.com. Check out that video on wax dipping. And I think that'll maybe explain this process just a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that was about as concise of an answer as you can give, Greg.
That was 18
awesome.
minutes.
That was really good. But yeah, so, and in my opinion, I started off, my mentor actually used to have his pine boxes milled, and then he would put them together. I would go to his place and he would have the milled wood, true 3/4 inch wood laid out, letting it dry. And then he would cut it up, and the boxes would actually contract as they became drier. They would be so tight, the frames almost wouldn't fit in them. So I started off with homemade boxes from a guy that just did it as cheap as he could, and he made them himself. And I think may have a couple of those boxes around somewhere, but those pine boxes and that sap, they almost turn into what we call fat lighter turpentine. That stuff will seal them forever, but it's almost like rainforest type stuff. But the truth is that, a lot of people, I think when they're getting started off, they do want to go with the less expensive route. And that's kind of what I did. But now I've, and it's not just with boxes, it's with all the equipment. I got the cheap stuff to kind of get going, and I built it as I started to make a little money with honey and different things. I was able to afford. Now I do like to buy the really good stuff, and it's always a good idea to start off with the really good stuff. But I get it. I totally understand why people do what they do, and build up to that. But that's a great explanation, Greg and Brian. Thanks for that. We need to. I think we're going to kind of start to wrap it up a little bit earlier tonight. I know, Greg, you got some things to do, and there was a comment here. First of all, I wanted to say thanks to Freedom Apiary's Pat for the super chat. Beekeeping is the best hobby to have. Thanks for all the information y'all give. It helps us new and experienced beekeepers. Thanks so much, Pat, for that comment. And then I wanted to, Greg, let you take just a moment and talk to this, and then we'll kind of go around the horn here. Tom or Melissa, not sure. Via Honeybees, Greg, how are you holding up? Are you keeping up? Remember to take time for yourself.
Man, thanks to Tom and Melissa for thinking of me on that. It's go time. It's that time of the year where there's you're just locked in, let her rip, and definitely looking forward to getting a little bit further down the road this season, where just everything is on cruise control as much as possible. We're in a high demand part of the season right now, and so no, I'm not taking any time for myself, unfortunately. But that's not true. I'll say this. We've made it a family practice to take Sundays off completely for church and family. And I can tell you over the last year and a half or so of doing that, maybe 2 years now, what a tremendous difference that has made mentally, physically, spiritually. So much that my body's trained that on Sundays is the day where my body just flat gives out. It feels like it knows it's a day of rest. Once we get past worship and church and all those things, when you start to come home from church and eat that meal, and then you just all of a sudden it hits you, and then you just know the rest of the day you're not expected to perform, to do anything, no business, none of that kind of stuff. You're just there hanging out with the family. Maybe we're cooking out, sitting on the porch here at the farm, watching the kids cruise with dirt bikes or something, but we're just slowing down in those moments. So that's what I'm doing. Sundays are my days where not only do we go to church and worship, but we also are spending time to just be with each other and not be in high productivity mode. So that's an important thing. So I'm holding up best we can, and we're just one more river to cross, it feels like, per se. So thanks for thinking of us.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment as far as the Sabbath Day Holy. I don't do the best job of that. I don't usually do a lot of physical stuff or really much business stuff at all. Every once in a while, you get in a quote unquote ox in the mire situation where you got to go do something, but it's usually pretty quick. I try to limit that. But there is something to, putting the faith in the fact that if you keep the Sabbath Day holy, he'll bless you. This blessing is beyond measure. I think is one of the more important commandments that so many people don't really take respect or adhere to much at all. So anyway, I do know that the day of rest is critically important. And this past Sunday, I laid down and just took like a 3-hour nap. I was just exhausted, and I just did that. And so it really helped fuel my tanks a little bit as well. But anyway, well, I guess I'll start with Brian. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what you got planned in the next few days?
Yeah. Well, in the apiary, seeing how like my 1 week inspection went, I mean, it was pretty much fantastic. In my video, I probably used the word fantastic 30 times. I had to like clip it out. I'm like, oh man, people are going to get sick of me saying fantastic. So, but it's just really, I'm going to monitor the colonies, all of the newer ones, make sure that they're building up as they should. When they do need the super added on, just because I'm going to do the story and a half, I'll get that on there too. My survivor colonies, I've got the one that I split, so I'll just need to monitor that. But that it's on its way. It probably had a capped cell on Tuesday, so I'll have to check my dating using my dial just to see when to go back in there. That's funny. But the other two, seeing how they had the slabs of brood, it's going to be soon, where I'll be splitting those as well. So my numbers will get to about right where I want them at, and it's just kind of ride it. Now, with everything weather-wise, how it is here, I'm thinking this is a fantastic year to build up, just because we're getting that flow. The frames that I put in, like Greg, I ordered the Premier Foundation and used that in that hex hive. Of the 15 frames in each box, in the 1 week, they had 7 of those filled out.
Wow.
No wonky areas, nothing. So this is a fantastic time right now for them to build. So it's just me monitoring really the bees and letting them ride. I am excited though. I'm getting to go back down to Greg's on Saturday. So, not saying, Tom, he doesn't want to come up and visit us. So, the shenanigans will take place because there's no one to monitor the two of us. The store will be busy.
Susie's got a pretty big whip, and she can reach anywhere with that thing if she really wants to.
Seeing how the store was as busy as what it was like 2 weeks ago, the whip was busy.
So, we're expecting, I think, 35 or 40% more individual customers. This last pickup is a lot of 1s and 2s. There's a couple 20s and 30s and 40s. Nice. But it will be, the door will not close. It'll just be nonstop in and out of there. So it's going to be it's going to be I can sneak a few donuts and she's never going to know. She's never going to know.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I always I've told Greg before, there's times where, I'll text and I'll be like, you can be busy this day, and what's up? And I'll be like, I need a nature's image day.
Absolutely. Well, let's do this, guys. Let's try to, I know the timing's always bad for when it makes sense for us. It's hard for Bruce and vice versa. But maybe if Bruce can make it up, or maybe if not, maybe we'll just put him on. We'll live chat him in here. But I think maybe we should try to do, maybe we do one up here, one down at Bruce's. Let's think about doing a shenanigan central convergence here at Nature's Image, maybe in June. and we'll get Tom and anybody else of the listeners here who want to come out and just hang out, do, talk about bees, just hang out, maybe do maybe we could do some kind of hot honey donut tasting contest. We can maybe take a look at some bees, but more importantly, just spend time with each other and fellowship, have a place just to kind of hang out, just a place to be. See what I did there? Just full of it. I'm getting tired, getting slap happy with that stuff. So if you think about, guys, so all of our stream team crowd, if you think that would be cool, then let's throw some dates around and see, maybe we can have something up here at Nature's Image. Depending on what Bruce is going on, if you can't get up here, maybe we just pack up and go down and see Bruce down there sometime this year too.
I will figure it out. As far as right here in Alabama, the bees are pretty much set up for the spring honey harvest. I have not had a chance to really graft queens or try and make some queens. I still want to try and do that, but we're about to be out of that ideal window. I have a few more weeks left. I mean, you can make queens later, but I just want to be able to do it in the ideal time. But life has happened a little bit here, so I haven't been able to do all the things I wanted to do, but that's okay. I've got some good bees and they're in good shape for now. But the next thing up for us here, the next really significant thing is the honey harvest next weekend, the 17th and 18th. And we'll see what we end up with that spring flow. I think we're going to have about between 60 and 70 supers for this one. That's going to be our small one. And then hopefully a much bigger one in June or July. So that's kind of our goal. And as far as the videos go, I've just shot some just raw footage. I haven't been doing a lot of editing. I mean, I haven't been doing editing, but I shot some footage a couple days ago just without even my mics on. Without my mic on, I just kind of put my phone up and shot it. One of the videos dropped this morning, and just kind of just trying to get some footage out there, some things I'm doing without having to try and get all fancy and plan ahead and do all that. And hopefully people will enjoy that more. It's going to be edited, but not as edited. It's going to be more raw. Hopefully people like that. We'll see. But that's kind of what's going on here. Not a whole lot. I mean, we're set up for a little while here. Just I'll be in them, of course, but not as much manipulation, not as many splits, not as much crazy stuff. A lot of the hard, that kind of work is behind me now, at least for a short time. Let's see. We've got a comment here from, let me see if I can find it. Dwayne. Let's see, Dwayne, I wanted to say the Instant Vape works great. Dwayne won the Instant Vape Light from us a few weeks ago on the live chat. He was the lucky winner, and he received it. Sounds like he's using it, and I'm glad you are, Dwayne. Glad you like it. Thanks for the super chat, man. So I'll go ahead and kind of just, I guess, turn the time over to you, Greg. We'll kind of close this thing out, and we do appreciate everyone being on here. It's just such an honor to have you on here and be part of this community. And I did see some new folks in here. Lincoln, who had some questions, said he's a young guy. He said he's a kid, and so we'd love to see young folks coming on here to get involved with the beekeeping community. And just anyone who's new or trying to get into this thing, it's an awesome adventure. But just try to prepare, but don't be scared to give it a shot and try. And hopefully we can, between us and other people out there trying to do what we're doing, hopefully, in the books and all the information out there, you can be able to set yourself up for success. And even if you don't succeed at first, if you want to do it, just try again. Don't give up. Don't quit. Greg, it's all you, man.
Awesome. Well, hey, folks, if you enjoy these Stream Team chats and you want to find a small way to support what we're doing, you can support Bruce's channel tonight by sending him a super chat in the comments. I believe he also has it activated where you can do that in the comments after this thing posts too. If that's something that you can do, we would surely appreciate it. And I know Bruce would appreciate that too. There's a lot of time and work and resources that go into dedicating the time to meet with everybody every week. And so we love you guys. We appreciate all your support. Brian, looking forward to seeing you this Saturday here at Nature's Image Farm, along with all of our customers for our May 10th Package B pickup. If you're listening to this, if you're in Ohio, we don't have any extra packages. However, we will have some extra queens that we're bringing up. So you can stop by the shop this Saturday from 11 to 5 here at 1500 Flint Ridge Road, Hopewell, Ohio, 43746. Stop over, see Brian, see myself, pick up some queens, pick up the best wax equipment on the market. Just hang out. It's going to be a lot of fun. One thing that we've done for anybody who's interested in the Learning Yard, if you're not familiar with that, It's every other week here at Nature's Image Farm. We take our bee customers and military veterans under our wing. We meet here in the shop for a live in-person Q&A. We talk about exactly what's going on. And then we take that information to the next level. We go right out to the learning yard, right out back here, and we apply all that information hands-on. You guys are holding the hive tool. You're cracking the lids, going through frames. We're guiding you through this experience so you can be more comfortable and confident with your beekeeping. That's called the learning yard here at Nature's Image Farm for our local crowd. We've taken it one extra step now. For our learning yard crowd here locally and for anybody abroad. If you want to tune in and see what the learning yard is all about, you can go to our YouTube channel at Nature's Image Farm, and you can sign up as a member of the YouTube channel. It's like $6 a month, and then you can also tune in to those Q&As and also that learning yard sessions. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great hands-on information. It's raw, it's uncut. There's no fancy filters, nothing, right? It's just straight up Q&A shop talk and hands-on learning yard bee work. It's a lot of great information that you won't see anywhere else. And typically it's not information that we're cutting up to put on the channel in all the regular places. So if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing here at the learning yard and get that solid baseline of information, consider becoming a member of the Nature's Image Farm YouTube channel. We would greatly appreciate it and look forward to supporting you there too. Next week, next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, will be on whose channel? The Nature's Image Farm channel. All right. Yes. Okay. So I think I'm picking up a pattern here. So it's going to go me, and then it goes Brian, and then Bruce, and then it goes. That's what we are kind of sort of doing. Okay, cool. What are we going to talk about next week? Let's leave some comments here on Bruce's channel in this video and say, hey, I would like for you guys to talk about this next week on the Nature's Image Farm channel. Maybe we'll pick that topic, and that will be the one. Man, see, quail. There you go. Who knows what we're going to talk about, right? It could be anything. It could be fruit trees. It could be quail, but it'll be the best chat ever. The best chat on Wednesday night you'll ever find. It'll be great. Everybody will be telling it.
Wonderful.
Okay. Chat. Anyways, hey, Bruce and Brian, man, you know, these chats never get old. It just seems like there's always something to talk about. There are so many great questions, such a great community. And it is just an honor and a blessing to be a part of all of this. Until next time, we want to remind you guys to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.